Good afternoon, everybody. Jon Del Arroz here, the author of For Steam and Country, and one of the authors included in the MAGA 2020 and Beyond anthology that just dropped this week. It dropped on MAGA Day, which was November 8th. We had a good time. So, what do I want to talk about first? Do I want to talk about book marketing, or do I want to talk about Taylor Swift? You all are going to tune out once I start talking about Taylor Swift, but I don't. So maybe I'll talk about Taylor Swift first and then get to book marketing. So her album dropped today. Obviously, I've been talking about it a lot on Twitter. I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. I like her whole reinventing self attitude. I like how she pisses people off by doing so, and how she kind of gets under people's skins just by being a confident person and actually playing off the bad reputation. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? The playing the bad reputation for good results. That's a little part of my marketing strategy also. I didn't intend on having that as a part of my marketing strategy, but I'll break it down from a global level in terms of how marketing works on a large scale. So on the global level, you have a choice in life for marketing, which is you can market your product, which I'm not saying it's one or the other, but when you're implementing a marketing strategy, it is one or the other, and you're going to have to choose one of these. You can do both if you have time and resources to do both. But you can market your product, one, or over here, you can market yourself, two. There's drawbacks and there's good things that come along with each of these strategies, but I think for long-term game in a content creation world, where we're looking at a sort of e-celebrity culture, where we're a content creation world at this point, that if you market yourself and you get people to invest in you more than investing in a particular product, they're more likely to return to you and return to your different products as they come out over time. I think a lot of people are seeing this and are being very successful with it. Now, in the author world, a lot of people are also resistant towards doing that. So authors as a group typically are resistant towards marketing themselves because, one, they have a very low self-image of themselves. They're often people kind of holed up on computers, not very social. They call themselves introverts. They don't do well in social environments, so they don't want to present themselves as the product because they don't want to come out and interact with people on Periscope like this every day, or they don't want to go into a coffee shop and just start chatting people up every day. They really just want to drill down and then just hope that people see the work as something that is valuable. Now, the problem with that in the modern content world is you're not just competing against people coming out with content, which there's more than ever before because the barrier to entry is so low. You're competing against every piece of content that ever existed. Netflix has, TV shows from 1960s that people want to watch. YouTube's got everything that's ever been recorded on film, pretty much. Books are all in print now because there's ebooks. You can go get Paul Anderson's entire catalog as an ebook on Amazon, and you know what? He probably, even if you're one of the best talents of today, he's probably a better writer than you. So why wouldn't they? So it makes it really hard just to operate on the single product element today when you're a content creator. And that's why I don't really do that much. I'm very aware that my books are good. I'm very aware that people like them. And of course I talk about that and I play that up when I can, but it's not my primary marketing strategy. And for a good reason, because just because they like For Steam and Country, which is a steampunk element book, it doesn't mean they're going to automatically follow just because they thought that product was so good enough to something like Gravity of the Game, where it's a hard science fiction book about baseball in space. Those two things aren't exactly the same product, and so you have to market them and start from scratch each time. Now, I have a brand that's me in my writing, and so the writing can carry over a little bit towards that, but it's not going to carry over 100%, and that's why I don't focus on it. So on the other front, there's marketing me as a person. So you're either going to like me or you're not going to like me, and I can't worry about that because obviously a lot of people don't like me, but a lot of people do like me too. So there's a percentile in there. There's it's a bell curve like anything else. There's a group that's just going to hate me. There's a group in the middle who's going to be indifferent or just okay, whatever. And then there's a group that's really going to love me. But if I can expand the group that really loves me, they're going to buy all my products for perpetuity. And that's the crux of my marketing strategy. So I came on the scene. I didn't intend on having a bunch of people dump on me early on in my career, obviously. I mean, that wasn't fun whatsoever. But I used it to my advantage because I had a lot of negative press attention coming to my way. And so I could either use it or I could not use it and then just hunker down. Now, a lot of authors warned me and they said, you don't want to go to that game. You want to hunker down. You just want to write and ignore this and move on. Well, if I did that, I'd be writing and, maybe people would have liked my books. I'm writing just as fast as I would have otherwise, but I'm spending a lot of my time of where I was gaming or hanging out or whatever now marketing. So I could have completely ignored that, and I don't know if it would have done good. It might have not. But the truth is, I used it. And I used it every step of the way, and I still use it every step of the way, and it works. And I got my marketing strategy originally, when I started looking at this, I decided to emulate President Trump and his marketing strategy through social media, through my online social media, right? Now, I'm not as charismatic as President Trump. I'm not as successful as President Trump, obviously. But he has tactics which are very simple and very easy to use, and you can use them yourself, and it works. So what happens is, one of his primary tactics is when he gets attacked, he attacks back hard. And so you see somebody talk smack about him, and he'll just make a very brief tweet that just really poignantly hits whatever his target is, with something, like sad or that's stupid or, something, a tag on top of it. So I do that a lot. And it really, what it does on the effect, it really irritates the people who attacked you first. Now, I don't go out and seek people to fight. I don't want to fight with anybody, but I do get attacked fairly regularly. Now, the other point on this is you have to choose your targets very carefully when you're using this as a marketing strategy. So I have a lot of people who at me and they call me all sorts of names, right? And they're people I have no idea who they are. Random dudes, randos, right? And I don't go and hit them back. Now, if they said something funny, I might retweet it because I think it's funny, and that helps the cycle. But I don't hit back against people who I've not heard of, who aren't going to give me some attention through that, because it's a waste of time. And it also gives it's a bad look. So it looks like me as a professional if I'm hitting somebody who's not a professional. There's just something psychologically bad about that. So I never do that, right? Never do that. Now, a lot of my critics use this to say I'm being insincere. And a lot of my marketing, when you're marketing yourself, right, you have to be sincere with your audience and with you. Otherwise, you're not going to connect with your audience, right? That's why video is actually so much more effective than blogging, and that's why I've started doing this over time. Because video, you can see that I'm just talking and this is who I am, and you can hear my tone, you can hear what I care about, et cetera, et cetera. On the blog, you just get my words, right? So you end up liking me more if you watch this, because I'm, versus my words, which, might come off as angrier than I actually am, right? So you have to be very careful about that. And when I get attacked and I'm outraged about the way I'm being attacked, and I am using it for marketing, absolutely, 100%, every single time. On the flip side, I'm very sincerely outraged about the way people call me a bunch of names. I mean, it's pretty garbage that New York Times bestsellers attack me on Twitter pretty regularly, and I don't know who they are, or I've read their books as a kid or as an adult even, and enjoyed their books, and they're just attacking me. It's pretty messed up. So those two things aren't mutually exclusive, and that's what a lot of people miss here. Now, on the other side, I don't spend all my time doing that. There's about 3 components to my online marketing of myself. There is the response to attacks. There's positive reinforcement. So every time I get a good review, every time people are talking about my book, I blast that out, and I blast it out positively. And then there's positive reinforcement of friends and allies in the industry also. So you might have seen my blog post about Scott Adams this morning. I wrote a very nice review for him, and I put some funny stuff in there and asked him out to lunch and stuff like that. Who knows what'll happen about that? It was meant more to be funny than anything else. But which I'll get to in a second. those three components are very useful. So what happens is when you, and Trump does this too. Trump talks about his accomplishments. Trump, what else is he blasts his enemies, and then third, when somebody's standing behind him and helping him, he blasts them out as a positive thing, like this is a great guy, he's the best in the business, sort of thing. And I always do that too. One, it does a couple of things. One, it shows your following that you're not just thinking about yourself all the time. And two, you're actually being useful for somebody else. When you're useful for somebody else, there's a reciprocity where people want to help you in the future. So, but again, it comes back to you can use it for yourself, but it comes back to the element where when you are marketing yourself as a person, you have to be sincere too. So I really love Scott Adams, right? So when I was reviewing his book positively and trying to get some attention through that, I was doing so because I wanted to review his book and I want my readers to actually read his book at the same time. You have to have, like I said, those elements of sincerity and using something for marketing are not mutually exclusive. And I would only use things for marketing if you're sincere, because if you come across as insincere on the internet, that is like the biggest crime you ever could commit. So only market what you truly want to market or who you truly want to market. That's a big component of it. On the other front, so I've got that. Those are kind of the three elements I use in my strategic bursts. But another part I use on social media, because social media is such a weird animal, is I just post stuff I think's funny. And when I post stuff I think's funny, about 30-40% of the time, I post stuff I'm interested in like 20% of the time, and then I post like actual marketing stuff like 40% of the time. That way, when people see my feed, I'm not just marketing, right? Because if I'm just marketing, it's not very fun. Nobody wants to deal with that. That's a boring feed that we've got commercials and we hate them already, right? So I give content to the fans and the readers because they find me funny or interesting, funny or interesting, right? So like this, I'm trying to communicate a marketing strategy that you could use it, right? And that hopefully a few people will tune in and find interesting. So if I'm funny or I'm interesting, people tune in, they click. Now, my goal on that front is I've been trying to get something to go pretty viral, and by pretty viral I mean gets me 1,000 blog clicks, gets me a few thousand impressions on Twitter once a week, and that's my abject goal, is to make something go viral once a week. Now, I try every moment of every day to make something go viral. So I'm just assuming that at this point, it used to be, it's a curve also. Like, you get better at it as you try to do it. And on top of this, you hit on content, but you also build a following that's more likely to help you get your stuff going viral. Like somebody just retweeted me right here. Hey man, welcome. And I appreciate it. I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm still like, I would say I'm not apprenticed here. I'm like in the middle. I'm not a master at this yet by any means, but give me 2 years and we'll be there. But this is my strategy, and it is working so far, so I'm going to keep doing it. So when you try to get something going viral, you have 2 ways to do it. It's either really funny or it's really poignant and interesting. And I'm hitting on things way more often that are getting retweeted and retweeted and retweeted. And like I said, it's for 2 reasons. One, that it's happening more than it used to. One, I'm just getting better at finding content that's interesting or funny. So I'm honing that a little bit. And 2, I've got a following that will help me retweet those and help me get those viral. And that happens over time. You have to keep at it. You can't stop. You can never stop. And you have to put out content every single day. That's the big deal. Every single day I'm here on Periscope. I've got 4 viewers. It's not amazing, but it'll be 100 by the end of the day. And then when I post it to YouTube, I'll have another 20. I mean, that it adds up over time. So you have to do it every day and build the habit. And then once you get people get in the habit of retweeting you, they'll follow you. Their friends start to follow you. It perpetuates itself, and that's kind of the goal on that front. Now, my end goal is to obviously sell books, and that's why I litter those sorts of things with selling books. And in an effort to remain sincere, because I want people to connect with me as a real person, I don't want to be a public front. John Scalzi made a rambling tweet about how authors have a public front and then a real life, and the public front doesn't always match the real life, so you can't expect that to be a thing. I don't ever want that to be the case with me. I think that is a terrible marketing and branding decision. If you are pushing something that's not you, you're going to burn out so hard. And we see that because John Scalzi's burning out so hard in the way that he actually now says he can barely even write. He's so immersed in his online persona that he has to put out that it drains him because it's not actually him. It doesn't drain me to do this. I have fun doing this, and that's kind of the difference, because it is actually what I want. So even though I'm pushing mostly content that I think will go viral, I also push content that I know won't go viral anyway, but is me, and that way people who really care can get that extra level of authenticity and an extra level of connection with me. So that's the me marketing aspect of it. Now, it all comes back to I am attempting to sell books, right? My brand is books. I don't make any money off my Periscope. I don't make any money off my blog. I don't have ads or anything like that. I just have my content. You can tune in for me. You can tune in for what I have to say. But I'm trying to sell books at the end of the day. So I made some mistakes for several months here. And my publisher actually brought this up, Jason Rennie, who's from Superversive Press. He said, John, why don't you just put a little blurb at the end of your blog post that has your book and says, click here. You'll get people buying that way. And I thought, I was like, I have no idea why I don't do that. So you do have to put the little advertisement content in there somewhere if you want to sell your content, and make sure that's there. But I don't know, tactfully do it so that, I tack it on at the end. You don't really have to pay attention to it if you don't want to. I really hope you do, because, this is how I make my living. But on the other end, you can look at the content, and I'm not. It's not being obtrusive. So I try not to be obtrusive in the overt marketing, and I try to make things go viral. And that's the crux of marketing me. Now, I get a lot of criticism for it. A lot of especially traditionally published authors say you're doing things in a bad way. It's a bad look. People in the industry talk about you bad. I don't care what people in the industry think, to be frank. The people in the industry who want to talk bad about the way I market and about who I am don't know me, don't care. They're not buying my books. They're not going to buy my books, and they're not going to support my books. So why? They are completely irrelevant to anything I'm doing. So, people who see success coming up like this don't like that, and they want you to do it their way to validate their type of success. And you'll run across that professionally in the content creation industry quite often, actually. So don't worry about them is my advice on that. Ignore them. The ones that stand by you in this are the ones that you stand by too. The ones that are nice to you and are helpful to you, you help out as well. And I have a bunch of people who have been very nice to me lately. I try to talk them up all the time. Like I said, Scott Adams retweeted my blog post this morning, so I'm going to be all about Scott Adams, of course. Vox Day has obviously been very nice to me, and he takes a lot of shade, but he's a good writer and he's a good guy. He calls me once a week. Why would I ever do anything but stand by him? John C. Wright and his wife Jaggy, more great people. And these are all people to check out and follow. Nick Cole, Robert Crucy, Richard Fox. There's all my shout outs, and I'm missing people, and I'm sorry. And Jed, you're in here every day, and I appreciate you watching, by the way. So, that's pretty much my marketing strategy. Now back to Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift uses these marketing strategies exactly the way I do. She's got her songs, and they're good songs. I mean, they're all professionally produced. This album is a lot darker, and it's got like Nine Inch Nails style like beats in the background, and like really indie hip hop beats in the background, and it's really different. So people just like it. But people have invested in Taylor Swift as a person, as a brand, and so she's pushing this edgy content that is different, and it's all about her edginess, and it's all about her reputation. So it's actually a multi-level marketing deal with this, and I think it's going to be very successful. Now the traditional country music listener who just was listening to the song for the song might not like it, and the traditional pop listener might not like it as well. But because there's so many people invested into her as a brand, just look at the way she's morphed her as a brand over time. And there's a big case study there that is just beautiful. And that's part of why I'm interested in Taylor Swift. Part of it is because it's funny, and part of it's because I actually like the songs, so it works out. So I'm about halfway through the album. I've enjoyed it for the most part. I think 1989 is slightly better so far, but there's some good songs on here as well. And that's all I've got for today. Please, if you have not checked out For Steamin' Country, this whole video I make so I sell more copies of For Steamin' Country. That's it. This is what you need to do, is buy and read and review, especially review, because I'm trying to boost those right now, For Steamin' Country. I'm writing the second book right now. It'll be out sometime next year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much for tuning in.